Disaster lay 100 kilometers off the coast. Beneath 6 kilometers of water, the Earth was distorting. A vast, slow-motion collision. The Earth's crust is made up of several continent-sized slabs of rock, tectonic plates. Japan lies on a boundary between these plates. The Pacific plate is ramming into it at 8 centimeters a year, about the same speed your fingernails grow. The Pacific plate drives underneath it, snagging and catching as it goes. The plate that Japan sits on compresses and buckles under the strain. Over decades and centuries, immense stresses build up.
The energy that drove this earthquake had been building up for a couple of hundred years. It's caused by the movement of the Pacific plate towards the Eurasian plate. Think of it as a giant elastic band that's being wound up for 200 years.
On March the 11th, 2011, at 2:46 p.m. Japanese time, the stresses reached breaking point.
The amount of energy released in an earthquake of this size is really huge, and you have to measure it in large units. If you take the atomic bomb that devastated Hiroshima, this event was probably 2 million of those, a really huge amount of energy.
Shock waves radiated out. The fastest, known as P waves, traveled at 6 kilometers a second. Japan's detection systems picked them up instantly. Within seconds, before anyone realized what was going on, automatic warnings flashed across the country. A computer-generated announcement even interrupted a Japanese parliament broadcast. By the time the warning system kicked in, the coastal city of Sendai, just 130 kilometers from where the earthquake originated, was shaking. The slower but more destructive shock waves, called S waves, had now arrived. These waves travel at 3 kilometers a second. They threw northeast Japan into chaos. As the shock waves raced outward, 150 kilometers southwest of the epicenter, they slammed past Fukushima Daiichi, an aging nuclear power station housing 6 reactors and generating 4.5 gigawatts of electricity for the local grid. This footage from a town near the reactor gives some idea of the earthquake's power. Japan's warning system had automatically shut down the reactors. Cooling them would take time.
When you think shutdown, you think, the danger's gone because it's shut down. But the reactor core was still extremely hot. You know, if you have a pan in the oven and you shut the oven off, that oven continues to heat inside even after you've turned it off.
After shutdown, emergency diesel generators kicked in to pump coolant through the reactor cores. Fukushima survived the earthquake intact, but there was one big problem. It stands just meters from the sea. 11,000 kilometers away at the Pacific Tsunami Warning Center in Hawaii, staff got emergency pager messages. Within 10 seconds of the earthquake starting, its effects were already being monitored around the world.
Japan has lots of seismometers, so there was a lot of information fast. So the earthquake was still going on when we got our page.
First indications, a magnitude of around 7. But as data flooded in, the figures started to climb. 7.5, 7.7, up into the 8s.
The immediate reaction of everybody was, that's not right. Because in the history of Japan, there has never been an earthquake larger than 8.4.
Really heightened the intensity of what we were doing, because we knew we were dealing with something very big and something that could affect the whole Pacific Basin.
We realized, oh, this is it. And then immediately you realize, this is horrible for Japan.
100 seconds since the fault line slipped. The slowest moving but most destructive S waves reached Tokyo.